platinum timepiece on his wrist ticked away another lonely minute. Sebastian Grant, the $14 billion man, sat in Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, waiting for a stranger. He could have anyone, anything, anywhere. Yet he was here, on a blind date set up by his meddling attorney. The host led a woman toward his table. She wasn't what he expected. In a simple burgundy dress, Grace Mitchell moved with quiet confidence. But there was a weariness in her eyes he recognized. She was a fighter. "I'm so sorry," she said, slightly out of breath. "My son's babysitter was late." The word hit him like a shockwave. "Your son?" Grace met his gaze, unflinching. "Yes, Oliver, he's 7. I'm guessing your attorney left that part out." Sebastian found himself smiling. This was different. "He has a habit of selective information sharing," he said, pulling out her chair. She ordered a modest glass of wine, not the most expensive one. "So," she began, her eyes sparkling with amusement, "Richard told me you were brilliant, driven, and hopeless at personal relationships." Sebastian nearly choked on his water. He was used to flattery and games, not this refreshing honesty. "That's rather harsh." "I found it refreshing," she countered. "I'm a single mom running a struggling art gallery. I don't have time for pretense." Her passion ignited as she spoke about her gallery, the Mitchell Space. It wasn't about profit. It was about giving emerging artists a voice, about creating a community. She told him about her ex-husband leaving when she got pregnant, about pouring her life savings into her dream to have the flexibility to raise her son. She laid her struggles bare, not as a weakness, but as a source of strength. He found himself opening up in return, explaining that his own company wasn't about colonizing Mars, but about providing affordable technology for education and healthcare in underserved communities. "Most people just see the billionaire," Grace observed thoughtfully. "That's rare." "Making $1 billion is easy," he admitted, surprised by his own honesty. "Making a real difference is the hard part." The evening flew by. They talked about her son's love for dinosaurs, his own secret funding of public school art programs, and the shared loneliness that success can bring. For the first time in years, Sebastian felt seen. Not as a brand or a bank account, but as a person. "I should get home," Grace said finally. He insisted his driver take her. As she slid into the car, she looked up at him. "This was unexpectedly nice," she said softly. "It was," he agreed, meaning every word. As her car disappeared into the night, he reached for his phone, then froze. His grandfather's vintage watch, his most prized possession, was gone from his wrist. Meanwhile, in the back of the sedan, Grace found the timepiece on the seat. As she picked it up, a hidden clasp popped open, revealing a tiny, folded photograph. It was a young boy with Sebastian's eyes, standing between an elderly couple on a sun-drenched beach. On the back, a faded message read, "Always remember where you come from." She held the watch, realizing she held more than just an expensive accessory. She held a piece of his heart, a secret glimpse into the man behind the billions. And she knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that this was only the beginning of their story. The next morning, Sebastian stood in his penthouse office, staring at his phone. He'd already called Grace twice, both times going straight to voicemail. This watch wasn't just expensive. It was the last gift his grandfather had given him before passing away. A reminder of the small fishing village where Sebastian spent his childhood summers. It was a place where life moved slowly, and wealth meant having enough, not having everything. His assistant knocked gently. "Mr. Grant, your 9 o'clock is waiting." Sebastian waved her off. "Reschedule everything this morning. I need to handle something personal." 20 minutes later, he stood outside the Mitchell Space in Chelsea. The gallery occupied a converted warehouse, its brick exterior weathered but charming. Through the large windows, he could see colorful paintings covering white walls. And in the center of the space, Grace was crouched beside a small boy, both of them focused on a canvas spread across the floor. Sebastian pushed open the door, and a small bell chimed. Grace looked up, surprise flashing across her face. Oliver, however, jumped to his feet immediately. "Mom, there's a man in a fancy suit," he announced loudly, paint smudged across his cheek. Grace stood, wiping her hands on her already paint-covered apron. "Sebastian, I was going to call you. I have your watch." "It's in my office, I figured," Sebastian said, unable to help smiling at the scene. "I'm sorry to interrupt." Oliver walked right up to Sebastian, studying him with the unfiltered curiosity only children possess. "Are you rich? You look rich like people on TV." "Oliver," Grace said sharply, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. Sebastian laughed, crouching down to Oliver's level. "I suppose I am. Is that important?" Oliver considered this seriously. "Mom says what's important is being kind and working hard. But rich people can buy lots of dinosaur books, which would be cool." "Oliver loves dinosaurs," Grace explained, moving toward her office. "Wait," Sebastian said, his eyes on the painting Oliver had been working on. It was surprisingly sophisticated for a 7-year-old. Bold strokes of color formed what looked like a T-Rex in a flower garden. "Did you paint this, Oliver?" Oliver nodded enthusiastically. "It's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but he's nice in my painting. He takes care of the flowers instead of eating other dinosaurs. Mom says art lets us imagine different worlds." Something in Sebastian's chest tightened. He thought about his own childhood, the hours spent dreaming and creating before business school and market analysis consumed his life. "Your mom is very wise." Grace returned with the watch in a small box. "I found the photograph inside." "I didn't mean to pry." Sebastian took the box, his fingers brushing hers briefly. "It's okay. That's my grandfather, Thomas Grant. He raised me after my parents died. He taught me that money was a tool, not a destination. He sounds like he was wonderful," Grace said softly. "Can Sebastian see my other paintings?" Oliver asked suddenly. "Please, Mom. I have 17 dinosaur paintings." Grace looked at Sebastian apologetically. "You don't have to. I'd love to." Sebastian interrupted, surprising himself. For the next hour, Sebastian found himself touring a 7-year-old's artistic interpretation of prehistoric life. Oliver had opinions about everything, from the correct shade of green for a brachiosaurus to why museums got velociraptors completely wrong. Grace watched from nearby, organizing canvases. "You're good with him," Grace observed when Oliver ran off to find another painting. "He's easy to be good with," Sebastian replied. "He's genuine. No filter, no agenda." Grace smiled sadly. "That's what worries me sometimes. The world isn't always kind to people without filters." Before Sebastian could respond, Oliver returned dragging a flyer. "Mom, my soccer game is Saturday. Can Sebastian come?" "Please, Oliver." "Mr. Grant is very busy," Grace said quickly. But Sebastian found himself saying, "What time is the game?" Oliver's face lit up like Times Square. 10 in the morning at Riverside Park. "I play defender. I'm not very good, but I try really hard." Grace looked at Sebastian, clearly expecting him to make a polite excuse. Instead, he pulled out his phone. "Let me check my calendar." He made a show of scrolling. Though he already knew his Saturday was packed with a charity brunch and 2 conference calls. "I can move some things around. I'll be there." Oliver cheered and threw his arms around Sebastian's legs in an unexpected hug. Over the boy's head, Sebastian met Grace's eyes. She looked stunned, and something else. Cautious hope, perhaps. That Saturday morning, Sebastian canceled a meeting with 3 senators and showed up at Riverside Park wearing jeans and a casual sweater. It's the first time in years he'd worn anything that didn't cost 4 figures. He found Grace sitting on cold metal bleachers, wrapped in a thick cardigan, cheering as Oliver's team practiced. "You actually came," she said as Sebastian sat beside her. "I said I would." They watched the game together, Grace explaining the basic rules when Sebastian looked confused. Sebastian buying hot chocolate from a vendor when the morning grew colder. Oliver's team lost by 4 goals, but he ran to them afterward with a smile as bright as if they'd won the championship. "Did you see me block that ball?" he asked breathlessly. "You were amazing," Sebastian assured him, and meant it. "Can Sebastian come to lunch with us?" Oliver asked Grace. "Please, we're going to Marco's Pizza." Grace hesitated, clearly torn. "Sebastian might have other plans, actually. I'm free," Sebastian said. "If you don't mind the company." Marco's Pizza was a tiny hole-in-the-wall place with checkered tablecloths and an owner who knew Grace and Oliver by name. They squeezed into a booth, Oliver chattering nonstop about the game, while Sebastian found himself relaxing in a way he had in years. No one here cared about his net worth or wanted anything from him. He was just another person sharing pizza on a Saturday afternoon. After lunch, as they walked through the autumn streets, Oliver spotted a bookstore and begged to go inside. While Oliver explored, Grace and Sebastian stood among the shelves, and the conversation turned more serious. "Can I ask you something?" Grace said quietly. "Why did you really come today?" Sebastian considered his answer carefully. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Yesterday at your gallery, watching you with Oliver, seeing the art and the passion and the realness of it all, I realized I've been living in a very small world, despite having access to everything. Grace studied him. And you think we're what? Some kind of authentic experience? A glimpse of how normal people live? No, Sebastian said firmly. That's not what I meant. I think you've built something genuine. A life with purpose beyond profit. That's not common in my world, and it's not something money can buy. Before Grace could respond, Oliver returned with 3 books about marine dinosaurs. Can we get these, please? Grace checked the prices, and Sebastian saw her face fall slightly. How about we get one today, and we can come back for the others next month? I can, Sebastian started. No, Grace said firmly, meeting his eyes with steel in her gaze. Thank you, but no. Sebastian understood immediately. This wasn't about pride. It was about maintaining the life she'd built, about not letting his wealth change the dynamic between them. He respected that, even as he wanted to buy Oliver every book in the store. As Sebastian's driver dropped them off at Grace's apartment building later, Oliver hugged Sebastian goodbye. Will you come to my art show at school next Friday? I'm showing my nice T-Rex painting. Sebastian looked at Grace, who shrugged with a small smile. You're apparently part of our lives now. Fair warning, though. Todd. School art shows involve terrible coffee and sitting in tiny chairs. I'll be there, Sebastian promised. That evening, back in his penthouse, Sebastian stood at the window overlooking the city. His phone buzzed with messages from his executive team, his attorney, his financial advisors. Everyone wanted his time, his money, his decisions. But for the first time in years, all he could think about was a small art gallery in Chelsea. A 7-year-old boy who painted kind dinosaurs, and a woman who chose passion over profit every single day. He pulled out his laptop and started researching. The Mitchell space was barely breaking even. Grace had taken out a second mortgage to keep it running. She worked 16-hour days between the gallery and caring for Oliver. She was one major expense away from losing everything she'd built. Sebastian made 3 calls. By midnight, an anonymous donor had established a grant program for small community art galleries. The Mitchell space would receive enough funding to operate comfortably for the next 5 years. With no strings attached and no way to trace it back to Sebastian Grant, he told himself it was just good business, supporting the arts and community development. But deep down, he knew the truth. Somewhere between pizza and dinosaur books, and sitting on cold bleachers, something had shifted in his carefully controlled world. Grace Mitchell, with her paint-stained apron and honest eyes and beautiful, complicated life, had become someone he couldn't stop thinking about. And for a man who could calculate risk and reward in billion-dollar deals, it felt like the most uncertain investment he'd ever made. Thanks for listening to our story today. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. See you next time. Grace stared at the letter, reading it for the 5th time. $300,000. The Anderson Foundation, an organization she'd never heard of, was awarding her struggling art gallery a community grant. No application, no strings attached, just recognition of her work. Her hands trembled. This money, it changed everything. She could finally fix the leaky roof, pay her assistant a real salary, and expand the kids' workshop. But something felt off. The timing was just too perfect, arriving only 3 weeks after Sebastian Grant, the handsome billionaire, had walked into her life. She pulled out her laptop and searched for the Anderson Foundation. 20 minutes later, her suspicions solidified. The foundation was established just 2 weeks ago, in its business address. The same building that housed Grant Technologies. Grace grabbed her phone, her finger hovering over Sebastian's number. Anger and gratitude battled within her. Instead of calling, she typed a short text. We need to talk. Come to the gallery tomorrow at 8, after Oliver's bedtime. The reply was instant. I'll be there. The next evening, Sebastian arrived at exactly 8. The gallery was dark except for the track lighting, casting long shadows across the paintings. Grace stood in the center of the room, arms crossed. The Anderson Foundation, she said, her voice tight. That's you, isn't it? Sebastian didn't try to deny it. Yes. Why? The single word was heavy with emotion. Because your gallery deserves to survive, he said, stepping closer. Because you're doing important work that shouldn't fail because of funding. Because you felt sorry for me? She cut in, her voice sharp. Because the billionaire wanted to play savior to the struggling single mother? No, Sebastian said firmly. Because watching you choose passion over profit, watching you build something meaningful from almost nothing, that inspired me. I wanted to help. Grace shook her head in frustration. You don't understand. I've built this place with my own hands, my own sacrifices. I've never asked for handouts, and now you've just swooped in and what? He challenged, made it possible for you to keep doing what you love. Ensured Oliver's mother doesn't work herself into exhaustion? You changed what this place is, she said, her voice breaking. I was proving I could do this alone. I didn't need anyone to rescue me. Sebastian's voice softened. Grace, accepting help isn't the same as needing rescue. You've already proven everything. This place exists because of your vision. Money doesn't change that. It just means you can do more. He stood beside her, looking at a painting of a woman at a crossroads. When my ex-husband left, she whispered, he said I'd never make it on my own, that I was too idealistic. Every day I've kept these doors open felt like proving him wrong. You did prove him wrong, Sebastian said softly. But there's no shame in letting someone support that dream. Not because you need saving, but because someone believes in what you're creating. Grace turned to face him. Why do you really care about this gallery? About me and Oliver? We're just ordinary people. Sebastian's gaze was intense. You want the truth? For 15 years, everyone I've met has wanted something from me. Then I met you. You looked at me and saw a person, not a bank account. Do you know how rare that is? That day at Oliver's soccer game, watching you cheer for him, sharing pizza at a place where the owner knew your order. I realized I'd been living half a life. All achievement, no joy. You and Oliver, you have something real, something I didn't even know I was missing. But we come from completely different worlds, she said, tears welling in her eyes. Then maybe it's time I left mine and learned to live in yours, he said simply. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. Her face fell. It's Oliver's school, an emergency parent meeting. They're eliminating the entire arts program. How bad is it? Sebastian asked, seeing the devastation on her face. Oliver loves art class. It's the only subject where he truly shines, she said, sinking into a chair. He struggles with reading and math, but in art, he's confident and happy. An idea sparked in Sebastian's eyes. What if they didn't have to cut it? Grace looked at him warily. Sebastian, no more anonymous donations. Not a donation, he said quickly. A partnership. Grant Technologies wants to expand our educational initiatives. What if we create an artist-in-residence program? Your gallery provides the teaching expertise. My company provides the funding. We pilot it at Oliver's school. This isn't charity? She asked, studying him. It's business, he assured her. Your gallery gets recognition and credibility. Everyone benefits. A slow smile spread across Grace's face. You've really been thinking about this. I've been thinking about a lot of things lately, he admitted. The parent meeting was tense, but when Grace and Sebastian presented their proposal, the room erupted in applause. Oliver, sitting in the front row, beamed with pride. Mom, does this mean art class is saved? He asked afterwards. It's saved, Grace confirmed, hugging him. Oliver looked at Sebastian. Thank you. You were like a superhero, but with money instead of powers. Sebastian laughed. I think your mom is the real hero here. You're both heroes, Oliver decided with a huge yawn. As they walked to the car, Oliver holding both their hands, Grace felt something shift inside her. This man didn't want to change their world. He wanted to support it. 2 months passed. Sebastian became a fixture in their lives. He attended Oliver's school events, helped at the gallery, and learned to make Oliver's favorite grilled cheese. He was just there. One cold December evening, they stood on a roof, looking at the city lights. I need to tell you something, Sebastian began. When my grandfather was dying, he told me wealth means nothing if you have no one to share it with. For 15 years, I've woken up thinking about market shares. Then I met you. And now I wake up wondering if Oliver needs help with a dinosaur painting, or if I'll get to see you smile. He took her hands. I'm not good at this, but I'll just say it. I love you, Grace. I love your passion, your strength, and the way you've built a life focused on meaning. And I love Oliver like he's already mine. Grace laughed through her tears. I love you too. I was just scared. Scared of losing my independence. Scared of our worlds being too different. Maybe I just needed the right person, he said softly, before kissing her as snow began to fall. 3 months later, Sebastian proposed in the quiet gallery with Oliver by their side. Will you marry me? He asked. Will you let me spend my life supporting your dreams and building something real together? Grace said yes without hesitation. Oliver cheered. Does this mean you're officially my dad? You'll have me, Sebastian said, his voice thick with emotion. You already are, Oliver replied, hugging them both. They married 6 months later in the Mitchell space, surrounded by art and love. As Sebastian danced with Grace, he caught his reflection in the window. He was a different man. He was richer now, not in money, but in every way that mattered. The blind date that was supposed to be a final, failed attempt at love had instead led him home. He'd learned that true wealth wasn't about what you have, but about who you share it with. And in Grace, he had found everything.